Welcome, everybody. I'm so excited to be back in action after a little sabbatical. We've been regrouping since the new year, and this is our first live for the Flow State YTT online. And I'm so excited. I have so much to share with you all. We're going to do some meditations today as well, but it is the kind of beginning of spring. And as we move into this next season, I always think with the springtime about planting seeds and the exciting vision of the garden of your life that you're going to be creating. So that's what we're going to be talking about a little bit today. We'll do some practices that I've been doing myself and also that I feel are super powerful for just like clearing energy and getting into the best vibration to call in your dreams and goals. Hi, Lori. Welcome. So happy to have you guys with us. And we'll just, as people come in, we'll just let them come in. But it's funny, we were just talking about hair and how, I sometimes get my hair, we call it blowout. So the blowout, right? It's like it gets straightened out. And although I like my hair curly, it just feels so fresh. And it does feel like kind of this energy, right? And I was thinking about how every little thing is an energy, whether it's your thoughts, your hair, what you're wearing, your physical environment, where you live, even like I got Mia Moore here, right? She's thinking a little now. But the energy that is around us is so important. And we also talk a lot about just like the relationships as well. It's such a powerful thing to realize that there is a lot of truth to the saying that you become the 5 people that you spend the most time with or that you connect with the most. So if you think about that, like really take mental note of your own life and who do you spend the most time with or connect with the most? And what is the energy that you want to move into? I've been talking a lot lately with some friends of mine about the idea of creating this new self, the new higher version of self, which is a new identity. And in many times when you're doing that, there's like parts of the old self that we have to let go of, right? And it could be like, I like to think of it like the caterpillar. When the caterpillar goes into the cocoon, and inside that cocoon, actually like a transformation, metamorphosis happens. And then actually, I don't think the caterpillar is even aware that at the other side of this metamorphosis, it's going to have to completely die to its old caterpillar self in order to be born and spread the wings and bust out of that cocoon and become this totally different version, this totally new self. And when I think about, and you guys can envision the beautiful wings, like magical colors, the ability to fly, and all that comes with the rebirth of the caterpillar and moving into the butterfly, and how we could apply that to your own life. Like when you're thinking about becoming a yoga teacher, or you want to change your career direction, or maybe you want to up level what you're already doing in a different way and offer it in a bigger way or in a more prosperous way, or just like in a way that feels more nourishing for your soul, right? So whenever you're thinking about like this new self, you have to really take inventory of like what aspects of the old self maybe need to be reworked, reconfigured, or even just completely eliminated in order to really birth this new self into being. So that's something that I've been talking a lot with my community locally and also friends and different, also in my own meditation, because I feel like the whole world, humanity at large, is kind of going through this rebirth. And I know sometimes in that process can actually be very messy. Like if you think about the caterpillar that's going into the cocoon, it's probably not pretty in there. You know what I mean? Like this caterpillar has to completely die. Like the process of death is not the fun part, right? So if you think about the planet, I get a lot of messages and different information right now about even the financial markets, like how that whole metamorphosis is taking place. We're not in the pretty part of that yet. I do feel that everything's in cycles though. So if you're ever in the part of like life or journey of anything that's like the not fun part, I always think the super important thing is to remember that this too shall pass, right? So there's always going to be that dark night or that difficult time where you're letting go of the old self or dying to the old identity, however you want to kind of say that. But basically, as you move through that energy, it takes a lot of courage. I feel like that's kind of the number one, like if you can kind of like aim for some kind of embodiment, it's courage, it's inner strength, it's resolve, it's resilience. And I think more than anything, it's determination to continuously evolve and commitment to that. Who here feels like you're committed to continuously evolving? Because I feel like that's kind of the foundation of my whole life. Like, you know, if you're not, then like what you notice in life is that you get a lot of these plateaus. Like you get a lot of stagnation. You get like, okay, things haven't changed for a while kind of feeling. So if you're ever feeling that, which we've all been there, I think antidote to that, and something that's really helped me a lot, is to commit to a period of time where you're going to do something different, completely different, something completely new. And that's actually why or how I started the 30-day yoga challenge, because I realized, okay, so if you could commit to a yoga practice, which would include a new way of being, a new way of relating to yourself and the world, a new commitment to your health and your wellness, a commitment to your healing and your evolution, and also kind of like a discipline practice. That's truly the realm of masters. It's 11:11. So we're just going to say the realm of masters is to commit to a discipline practice. And 99% of the time, it's not a practice like something that you're like, yeah, I want to do this in the beginning. But when you get into the habit of something after a little while, that's why it's important to do it for like 30, 40 or 60 or 90 days. I always like to start with 30 because 30 is kind of a palatable number. It's like, okay, I can commit to 1 month, right? And then what you notice is after that period of time, you move through an experience of energy. The first part is resistance. The first part is, man, this is uncomfortable and I kind of don't want to do it. And I feel like not doing it today. And you kind of like want to talk yourself out of the new thing, whatever it is, the new habit, the new practice, the new commitment. But then when you stick to it, once you make it over the hump, excuse me, once you make it over the hump, which is usually that middle part, let's say you're doing 30-day commitment. So after day 10, you almost like can't not do it because you've already told your soul and you're committed to yourself on this level. You've been showing up for this long. Like if you just stopped, you would actually feel really bad. And actually, you could try that if you ever wanted to. Just stop for a day and then realize, no, I want to go back to it. Like there's a part of the soul and the mind and the psychology that actually wants to follow through on your commitment to yourself and also to others. So that's where the 30-day challenges really can solidify a transformation in consciousness and in your whole life. That's why I built my whole life around this challenge concept. Like 30-day yoga challenge was such a huge part of how I launched my career as a wellness professional. And also even still to this day, my 30-day yoga challenges have reached millions of people. And I don't think it's something that is unique to me. So many other people decided to copy that and actually went on and created their own challenges. And it's not like, oh, she's already done that, I can't do that. What I think, especially if you're part of our community here, is if you're looking for like a really smart hack for your life or for your clients or for your students, if you're a teacher with us, that if you get somebody to commit to a period of time, doesn't have to be 30 days, but 30 days is a good amount. If you commit to a period of time, we call it a challenge because there's that time when they're going to want to quit. So it's a challenge to get through it, right? It's a challenge to make it to the end. But if somebody can do that and they make it through to the end of this new habit that's not comfortable, that's not something they've been doing every day, for example, and that's healthy for them. That's the key component. It has to be something that's going to be beneficial for them so that by the end of the journey that you or the person that we're talking about, that you feel different, you feel like a new person. But I think besides for all the benefits that someone would gain from doing yoga every day for a month or doing meditation every day for a month or trying a whole new approach to their diet or whatever the challenge might be, but the actual transformation is also, in addition to that, it's also this knowing that you stuck to your commitment to yourself. You stuck to something that wasn't like easy, right? And whenever we do that, you actually, you train your consciousness to believe in yourself more. So that's empowering. You also train your consciousness to believe that you can do things, right? So then when something difficult comes along, you're like, I did that other difficult thing, so I could definitely do this difficult thing. And you start to feel this sense of empowerment and confidence in yourself. Now, let's talk about what happens on the other side. Like if you commit to something and then you don't do it, what happens is you actually stop believing in yourself. And that degrades at your confidence. That makes you feel like, oh, I don't usually stick with my word, so how can I even trust myself? And that's a really bad place to be, right? Like if you don't even trust yourself anymore, it's going to be really hard to get other people to trust you, for example. So then that starts to affect other aspects of your life. And yeah, there's just so many different areas how this can be applicable. I just wanted to bring this up because I feel like as part of my life journey, I've really sat with these concepts of transformation, of like recreating self, and also how to help other people do that. So even in the beginning, so I've been teaching for over 18 years, but in the beginning, or even to this day, I always focus on the word transformation. So transformation and metamorphosis are very similar. So when we talk about the caterpillar becoming the butterfly, it's similar in that sense. Transformation and also alchemy, it's the same concept where you take something and you change it from what it was to a totally different thing. So with alchemy, you could take a base metal and turn it into gold, for example. And that's what an alchemist can do. Or somebody who is a specialist in transformation. You could take somebody who's like depressed or has anxiety or whatever their problems might be, and then transform them in a way where they have emotional stability, where they feel a sense of emotional mastery and ability to handle life in whatever life might bring to them and things like that. So this is really what our job is as a yoga teacher, as a wellness professional, as a health coach. So whatever you're thinking about doing, if you're a part of this community, I wanted to plant this seed because I think so often when we start out on the journey, we think like, oh, I'm just going to be teaching yoga. But I think that you got to really look at the deeper intention and the energy that's going to create in somebody's life. And you can usually get that understanding from your own life. Like, how has this changed your own life? How does this change you in a fundamental way? What aspects of yourself are different now? If you say, yeah, I'm committed to my wellness, I'm committed to my daily self-love and self-care, and I'm committed to helping other people do that. And it's not frivolous. This is actually the foundation of a really good life. Like people who are billionaires or any kind of successful people. I've known so many kinds of people that they have what could be considered everything, but they're not happy and they're not healthy, for example. So a lot of times people sacrifice their health and their happiness for money or for fame or for something, power. And then inevitably, every time anybody does that, what happens is they always come back to realize that the most important thing is your health and your well-being, like health and happiness. Because you could have all the billions in the world, but if you're sick and unhappy, what's the point, right? I had a lot of clients like that. But like, for example, I remember this one client when I was starting out as a teacher. I had just been teaching about 2 or 3 years, and she was a wonderful woman from Israel, so wealthy. Her family had they were one of the wealthiest families in Israel. They were living in my town that I was living in Boca Raton, Florida. It was really interesting because she was so depressed and overweight, and she had a lot of anger problems, and she had 2 kids, and the dad left her. And so she just had so many problems, right? But she lived in this huge mansion, and she had literally the financial side of her life was so solid that it was interesting, because I know a lot of people who have far less than that, like financially or, in every area of that side of it, and are way happier, right? Like they were healthy and happy and living this life where they felt good every day and waking up, and even with very little material possessions, they felt really good every day. And so it was like such an interesting experience for me to have these types of billionaire clients where they're just completely unhappy. I mean, I could give you so many examples like that. I had another client, same thing. She had been born with $700 million in the bank, in her trust fund. And then she turned her $700 million trust fund into $40 billion by the time she was 40. And she was really good with money, apparently, but she was a mess. When I met her, she was addicted to cocaine. She was losing her children because she was in a divorce from her husband. Like, it was just such a nightmare. And I just remember thinking all these experiences were coming to me to teach me that money is not the answer to things. Not to say money is not good. And I do want to talk about the importance of money and abundance, and also give you guys some ideas today that I want to share. But just wanted to emphasize the reason that I've committed my whole life to spreading health and wellness and happiness is not because I just think that that's the only thing that matters, but I think it's a fundamental thing for every human being, that every human being needs this as the basis of their life, right? Health and happiness, like well-being. And then everything else can be like cherries on top. Like if you have mansions, or if you can donate millions of dollars to charity, or whatever like else, you want to do with your life is wonderful. But just like the very basis, I think the commitment to yourself, to be healthy, to be happy, and to be a light in this world, to spread health and happiness to others, is just like the best case scenario. Because if you commit to that, one thing that I'll say, at 41 years old, I'm so grateful that I spent the last 18 years focused on my health and happiness instead of focused on something else. Because now at 41, I feel like really, really excited about the future, because I know that we can stop the aging process or reverse it. We can feel better and better. Like, I feel better at 41 than I did at 21 in terms of my health, my energy, my vitality, my confidence, my everything in life. And everybody has this ability to do this. And I just wanted to emphasize that. Let me just see in the comments. I have Abigail left a comment. I want to say, I commit so much that I end up being a martyr and I burn out. The key is knowing how to keep honoring yourself. That's true. That's very true, Abigail. And we could talk about this for a moment. Like, if you say, I commit, that depends on what that is. Because sometimes when I'm talking about committing, it usually should be a practice or some kind of commitment that's actually going to nourish you so deeply that you don't burn out. So that's the commitment that I'm aiming for. So instead of commitment, like you commit to healing everyone in the world, or you commit to giving your time all day, every day, and then all of a sudden you're burned out, especially because I know you have children. So mothers, especially, this is like super important for mothers. I worked with so many mothers, families. I think that it's radically underestimated how much work it is to be a mother. Like, my sister is a new mother. She just had a baby less than a year ago. And, she hasn't really slept in 1 year. And every mother that I talk to, they say the same thing. They're like, I haven't slept in 20 years. Like, everybody that I know, like, however old their children are, that's how many years they haven't slept. So I'm like, I haven't had children yet, but I do think even I had puppies, and it felt like I had that experience because I realized I wasn't getting the sleep, because you always have to put the other's life ahead of yours, right? Like, if they're asleep crying, they need food, they need something, you need to put their life ahead of yours. And that's how you can get to burnout. And I think that the key, what I'm trying to emphasize, is not that you need to add something more to your plate of a commitment, more to balance your schedule in a way that you're always allocating time and energy to your own self, so that you're filling your cup, right? So if your cup is empty, like she was saying, she felt burnout. If the cup is empty, then you can't serve anybody with an empty cup. So it's like the commitment. It's like if you have a car and you're running low on gas, the commitment is you have to go fill the gas tank, right? So if your energy or your life is feeling burned out, the commitment is You have to give yourself the gift of whatever is needed in order to keep that cup full, right? So for everybody, it's different. Like for me, one thing that helped me so much, because I did experience work-related burnout so many times, actually 3 times, because I am such a giver and I like to create and I do all these things. And if you're the same way, you might have experienced the same thing, which is where you get all burned out. And then all of a sudden it's like, you can't even get out of bed. Then you're like, what's the purpose of life? And you go through a spiral of depression that comes with burnout that reminds you that your priority has to be on yourself. So basically, what I'm trying to emphasize is that if you feel that you commit to so much that it burns you out, what you really want to do is rework your schedule in a way that you always have something that you're committed to every day that fills your cup, which could be your yoga practice, your meditation, some kriyas, some mantras, some going outside, doing something that just feels good, having tea, even like a bath. There's so many things that work. And so for everybody, there's something different that fills your cup. You want to find those things that fill your cup, and then give yourself a challenge. You're like, okay, I'm going to do this every day for 30 days. It doesn't have to be the same thing every day. Even it could be like self-love challenge, right? Maybe twice a week you do a bath, and then once a week you get a massage, and then every day you're doing some form of yoga or meditation or something that makes you feel like your energy is moving and you feel like you get this balance back in your life. And what I've learned is if you don't do that, then like you start to operate, like if your bank account had like a negative balance, you start to operate in a negative balance where it's like you never can feel like you can catch up. And that's where you don't want to get to. If you ever get to that point, then you really need to go to an Ayurveda retreat or some kind of healing center where you can just like completely let people heal you and like receive on the deepest level from others. Because if you're super depleted, sometimes it's hard to fill your own cup. That's why healing centers exist. In fact, I'm super excited. We're going to be creating a whole wellness center, like retreat center franchise with a new partner that I have. I'll tell you guys a little bit more about that in a little bit, but super excited. And I feel like this is kind of the solution to a lot of things that are needed in the world right now. Like I feel like a lot of people need healing, but they don't even know where to go for that. Or they want to own a retreat center maybe, but they don't know how to go about doing it. So I ended up getting this amazing partnership that we're going to be able to offer like retreat center, healing center franchise where people can like own their own healing center. And then you could actually like live there, work there, help healing other people, and also make it a priority where you're always kind of like healing yourself because you live in a healing center. I think that's the optimal situation for wellness professionals. Let's see. Flor says, hi everyone. Sorry I'm late. Happy Easter. Happy Easter to you guys. Goddess. Oh my goodness. I don't know how I got the hiccups. Kathleen said, the weather has turned very nice here all week, and I'm planning to go hiking each day. Amazing. I love that. Where do you live, Kathleen? I wonder.
I'm in Ontario, Canada.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
So you have already spring coming?
It's spring, yeah.
What does it look like? You got flowers blooming and everything?
Well, not quite, but the weather's turned nice enough and it's sunny all week. So I'm going to spend more time outside.
Yay.
Yay.
I can't emphasize, that's the word, underemphasize the power of that. I was thinking about the other day because I was like, why do you always feel so much better when you go on vacation somewhere like Bali or Costa Rica or somewhere where there's like all this nature? And the reason is there's 2 main reasons. I would say 3. Number 1 is because being around nature, what happens is your frequency, your body's energy starts to harmonize with the energy of nature. And the energy of nature is so pure. I call it pure source energy. So pure source energy, it's the same energy of source or God, right? It's like this pure energy. And so when you start to harmonize with that, then your vibration, if it's been in like stress, anxiety, any kind of energy that's not pure source energy of love and divine frequencies starts to harmonize with nature. So that's why being in nature every single day is so important. The other reason I think that going like into nature is so important is because it also gets you out of your rut. Like if you're in a rut, or we could call it a routine, like some kind of routine where it feels like you're always just, doing the obligations of life, but like not doing things that bring you joy, for example. Anytime if you go into nature, it always reminds you of how like the simplicity of life is everything, like you don't need all these things. Like so often we think we're doing all these things and we need to do all these things, and like you go into nature and nature is just like perfect without anything else. So it just reminds you like you're perfect as you are. Like you don't really need to do all these, push yourself, overcommit, like Abigail was saying. Like when you start to be a martyr, also like what Abigail was saying is like give of yourself too much and then you are depleted. Like nature reminds you that that will never be the right strategy, right? Like nature is just perfect and it just does just enough, whatever it needs to, and that's it. And that's also a very feminine energy. And a lot of people in our community are females, and women. And I feel like the divine feminine energy is this feeling that you're enough as you are, and you don't really need to do more. But what you do need to do is reconfigure your relationship to allowing life to support you, or receiving blessings, or opening yourself up to miracles that you're calling into your life. And just like the more I think we spend time on those aspects, like those energies, then instead of doing, because a lot of times we think if I do more, I'm going to have more, but it actually doesn't always correlate. Now, it doesn't mean don't do anything, of course. You have to do something. You have to have a balance in life, right? You have to do things. But that's where like meditation, yoga, prayer, self-care, Ayurveda, all of these things are wonderful teachers that show us that like sometimes if you do less, you experience more, right? So doing less, like think about meditation. You're just literally sitting there, usually doing almost nothing. Sometimes you could breathe or, do a few simple things, but, you're not necessarily doing a lot. But at the same time, you're getting so much from that, right? And you're receiving, and so it's just like literally shifting into that receiving mode. And I think that that's really a nice thing about spring, Kathleen, is like as you move into spring and you can go out into nature and you start to see, the birds singing, you see the sun shining, and it just reminds us everything is going to be fine, like whatever stress you might have or worries or concerns, it puts it into perspective. So I really celebrate that for you to be able to go into nature more. Hi, Valerie. Welcome. If anybody else wants to share, I'm happy to hear anything. And also if you guys have any questions as we go through today. But I was doing this full moon ceremony the other day, which I should have probably shared it with our community, but it was like a private ceremony, so I didn't get a chance to. But I was thinking about the power of, we have this 22-minute chakra kriya. Who here has done the 22-minute chakra kriya? I know, I think Joe did it because we did it at our retreat. I think Abigail has done it because she's been a part. Lori has definitely done it. But let's see. Lori said it's her favorite. Oh, good. Yeah, it's so cool. Like I did it with this huge group of goddesses the other day, and I was like, Valerie says she did it. Oh, amazing. Yay. That's right. So, but it's like an interesting thing because I was thinking about the simplicity of it, right? So often we're trying to do so much. And in fact, a girl said to me the other day, she's like, it's really hard to fit in all of these things, right? So if you got to meditate, do yoga, eat healthy, do your journaling and do all these like practices or whatever that like put you into whatever, a good cadence of life, right? We'll just say that, like you get into the flow of life, you have these rituals that help you to stay in your flow, and you feel like life is balanced and life is expansive and a lot of miracles are flowing. Like that's the intention of all this. But you don't want to get to where you're feeling so like burdened by having to do too much, right? Then all of a sudden you don't do anything. That's usually what happens, right? Like if you feel like you have to do too much so often, you do nothing. And that's something that I want to emphasize, is that you never want to get to that point, right? So you want to find a way to make it simple and enjoyable. So if you're thinking about how am I going to fit in my yoga practice, instead of thinking, oh, I can't find time because I don't have an hour, instead, you're like, okay, well, do I have 22 minutes, right? Or do I have 5 minutes even? And then just do what you can, instead of feeling like guilty or something that you didn't do more. And then that starts to also reaffirm inside of ourselves, like, it's okay, do what you can, and don't feel pressure to do more than you can. Let's see. Lori says, I've taught it before too, and they loved it. Oh, good. Yeah, it's cool. Like so many people, really always tell me how great they feel with that. And there's a few practices that I do. I do that one, which I love. In fact, every time I do that one, I'm like, this is the best. But I have a few different practices. Actually, recently I started learning a practice that I learned from the Art of Living. The Art of Living is an amazing community that was started 41 years ago. The year I was born, they started it, and it was created by Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, who is like an enlightened saint from India. He's like so amazing. My whole life, I always connected to all these enlightened masters, but I never found one that I felt like so connected with as I do with Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. And I want to share a minute about that, because who here knows who that is? Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, the creator of the Art of Living. Post a comment if you know who that is. I think it's so interesting because some people, most people have heard of him. Like he's kind of like one of the most famous people in the world because he is a saint. And at the same time, he is most famous is in India. So I went to his ashram. Lori says yes. I went to his ashram in India, and I learned so much that it's almost like it changed my entire life. Like, a couple of things that I went to India after our training that I was leading in Bali this January. So I was in Bali in January, and then I went to India for a month. And it was literally the most life-changing month, maybe of my whole life. It was really incredible. Like first of all, I did 2 weeks at the Oneness Temple. If anybody's ever thinking like, I'd like to do something that's radically life-changing, I would suggest you to go 2 weeks at the Oneness Temple. It's so next level amazing, like life change. Like I now what I decided to do is anybody who wants to get their advanced certification with Flow State Institute, if you decide you want to go to the Oneness Temple, go to their program, then I'll give you the hours and you could use that as your advanced training, because it's so deep and powerful. Like I feel like I healed like thousands of lifetimes like of suffering. Like it was so incredible. Like I saw from the time of Egypt, all of my Jewish ancestry, like all their suffering because they were slaves in Egypt back in the day, like all the Israelites and the Jewish people were slaves to the Egyptians like 7,000 years ago. And I saw them all become liberated. So it was just like so amazing. It's hard to describe, but it was through this process, but it wasn't easy. I wasn't like, oh, then it was just like joyously liberated. Like I went through a death of my own where I felt there was a part of me that had been suffering because of my ancestry, because I was associated with this aspect of my soul that had been a slave 7,000 years ago. And I was carrying that into this lifetime and experiencing certain things that were really painful and not understanding why. And when I went there and I saw that, I realized I had been carrying this somewhere, whatever it's in my subconscious, unconscious, or somewhere in just the vibration of my DNA, that I was carrying this suffering, and I let it all go. And then I saw all the Jewish people become liberated, literally like millions of people become liberated, and then they ascended into this higher realm. And then I saw them all sending love and blessings to the whole world and healing and forgiveness to everyone. And I felt so transformed by that I was like, okay, so anybody in our community that ever wants to go have that experience, you can get, between 150 to 300 hours, 2 weeks to 4 weeks. So anyway, that's an option that we added to our curriculum to it as an option if you want to go to India. The other option that's really like, so after that, I went to Sri Sri Ravi Shankar's ashram, which is called the Art of Living in India, in Bangalore. Because after the thing at the Oneness Temple, I was so like, I mean, I went through a death. So it's like I went through this deep spiritual death. So from there, I was like, I need to go to the Ayurveda center. The only thing for me that ever feels like so healing, deeply nourishing, if I ever have burnout, deep exhaustion, or like something like what happened at the Oneness Temple, where it was like a death of my, like some aspect of myself. So I went to the Ayurveda center. The reason that I love Ayurveda so much, and it's so cool because Flora is here and she actually went to the Ayurveda center that we work with in Bali, and she had a wonderful experience there too. With Ayurveda, what they do is the whole thing is requires you to just relax. So basically, you're in the non-doing mode. You go, you have like several massages or oil treatments or steam, or like different types of treatments every single day. You have like at least 2 or 3 every day, and then the rest of the time you just like relax, meditate, very gentle yoga, and then eat very nourishing food. So it's like the whole thing, like you don't do anything else, which is really important because usually when you go there, you need to rejuvenate, you need to restore your energy. If you ever feel depleted to that level, now I've already been 5 years in a row. I want to go every year. If I could go every single year to an Ayurveda for at least 1 to 2 weeks, that's the best life because it's so rejuvenating. It balances all your doshas. It just puts you back into, it's like rebirth, and it makes you feel so good. Floor says, yes, it was absolutely amazing. Totally worth it and advisable. Yeah, I'm so happy you went. Do you want to say anything about it, Floor? Because you're welcome to share. I know she went to, so I have 2 different Ayurveda centers that I've worked with. The one is in India and the other one is in Bali. Both of them are really, really amazing. The one in India is a little different because it's also part of the Ayurveda College and the Ayurveda University. So it's very, very powerful, deep medical experience. So if I was having an ear infection and they healed my ear infection. Okay, Flor, you want to share?
Yeah, it's
Hi,
everyone. It was really amazing in Bali after the yoga teacher training. Like 1 week after, I went to Ayurveda, and it was like terrific because it took a lot, right? The yoga teacher training, and then they're completely integrating and healing, and they take such a lot of care for the people who come there, and they really are passionate about it. The doctors are, but also the other people who are there to give the massages, and the program so good in tune whatever I needed. It was so relaxing and rejuvenating, and even people who saw after that, they said like, wow, you look like 10 years younger, and I even look young before, so it was amazing. It's thank you for advising me to go there, because it was, in the beginning I thought, well, it's quite pricey, but afterwards I thought it was worth like every euro I paid for. It was so beyond my wildest expectations and very healing, and I totally agree. I can do this like every year. Wow, amazing.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that. That's how I felt too. Because I was like, people don't know what they're getting in for if they've never done it. And like, even me, I didn't know exactly what to expect when I did it. But then I was like, going there, it was just everything that I needed plus more. Because it's so rare for women especially, but for everybody to unplug to that level. When you say unplug, like you're also like not watching TV, you're not doing things, you're not grocery shopping, you're not cleaning, you're not doing anything that exhausts you or requires, I mean, you can, if you need to do your work still, like they have Wi-Fi, you can do your work if you need to, but for the most part, just unplugging on that level and then allowing that level of just receiving love and unconditional, like just so much energy coming in. And but the unique thing about Ayurveda is it's a 5,000-year-old science where they're actually, you know, like it's a science, so they have it down to an art form where they know what you need based on what your doshas are saying, you know, and stuff like that. And so in that sense, here, I'm going to try to fix this second. Yeah, so when you go there, you meet with the doctor. The nice thing is too, you can meet with the doctor every single day, and they keep assessing like, what do you need, and then they kind of like tweak the program as you go, you know. And that's happened to me because I've already been there 5 years in a row, and I was like, sometimes, you know, I was having this problem, and then other time I was having a different problem, like whether it's a digestion thing or like exhaustion, or, you know, one time I was having like a very heavy menstrual cycles, and it was just like, so they were just showing me, oh well, you need to do this and this with your diet, or with your, even for example, when I was having all this very heavy menstrual cycles, they started giving me a lot more treatments for my upper chakras. So they were making energy come higher again because there was too much energy going down, and they just know how you can, you know, like work with the energy through these practices that they do, like massages and different types of treatments with oil and all these herbs and everything, and that it just like puts your energy back to the perfect balance that you need. And that's their whole emphasis. And then, you know, so you can do it for a week, you can do it for 2 weeks. I know people, you can even do it up to a month. I've the guy that owns the one in Bali, he always does 28 days. Like once a year, he'll do 28 days. And he's so cool. And it's such a good idea. You know, I think he's like in his 60s now, and he goes, and it's such a good idea. So that's also what I was saying like earlier, such a nice idea for anybody who's ever dreamed of having a wellness center. Like that's going to be part of our wellness center franchises, integrating Ayurveda and biohacking as well as yoga and all these other things into a wellness center concept. And then we would be supporting that by helping everybody, you know, promoting the retreats and stuff like that. But anyway, that's something I'll be sharing more about in the future. But thank you so much for sharing about that, Floor. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe because it was so good over there, and some people, they for me, I was there for 10 days, but some others, they stayed there for 30 days, and I noticed that actually the ones who stayed longer, they said like, we see people come and go, and probably 2 weeks is enough to have like the most benefit out of it. People who stayed there like for 30 days, you notice that in the end they said like, yeah, I don't know if I gain so much more from it. They were still enjoying it. But even if people would consider going and they say, yeah, but then I just have like 1 week or 10 days, it probably is not enough. It's still totally worth it, because they can just figure out, like you say, the doctor is so on top of everyone to give you the best possible journey. And that I want to encourage people, like, even if you don't have so long, I think for 5 days that's totally too short, but for 10 days, 2 weeks, it's absolutely worth it. Yeah.
I agree. I've never done more than the 2 weeks. It's kind of hard to take that amount of time off. You're like, okay, I want to do a whole month just doing almost nothing. But it's nice if you can do that. But like, I think that's a nice thing about it too. Like you're saying, you don't need more than 2 weeks. In fact, I think I felt the same way. Every time at the 10 days to 2 weeks marker was when I was like, okay, I'm feeling like really reborn, you know. And then I felt, okay, I can go back to my life, and this is a good timing to go back to my life. And I never felt, I wish I'm staying another 2 weeks. I never felt that. But for somebody who's very sick, for example, then they might feel that, because it really depends. Like if your health is really bad, they can heal you. And sometimes you need more time, so it depends on where you're at. But if somebody's like just burned out and exhausted and feeling imbalanced, then 2 weeks or 10 days is definitely enough. But yeah, like if you're going through like deep, like for example, if I had, like I've been meeting so many people that have like cancer or like really deep sickness, those are the people that I would say you should do at least a month, like, because it's not about just restoring your energy. It's like about going to the deepest cellular level to heal in the deepest, genetic DNA and everything. So those people I would definitely encourage to go longer. Also, anybody who, let's say, is overcoming addictions, because one thing that's nice about it is they really require you to, give up all your addictions, because you can't drink, right? You can't do anything that's like smoking. Like if people have those types of addictions, then it's nice. Like it usually takes more than 2 weeks to overcome like a really hard addiction. So for anybody who's going there trying to overcome addictions, for example, I think it's definitely nice to stay longer. But for the normal human beings that are just burned out and need like a total reset, that's, I think, I've never done only 7 days. I've always done 10 to 14, but 10 to 14 is great.
Yeah, I agree. And it's cool that even I do agree on that. Like if you really
How many days do you
have
do?
strong problems and addiction or sickness, then it can be longer. But I noticed that people are when they went for just 5 or 7 days, they noticed that it was maybe too short, because then you completely start to relax and then you have to go already. But then from till 10 days, it's like really amazing. And then if I really remember, like first day I went out of my room to go to dinner, and then you come back in your room and they like prepared everything for the evening. That was like the first point. I thought like, they really do take care of everything. Like you go out of your room in the morning, curtain close, and then you come back and then, hey, cool, it's like completely ready for the day.
Yeah, they like always clean
And
your
in
room.
the evening they do the same. So it's really taking care of everything.
Yeah. That's the key, because if you think about it, that's what burns people out. I was thinking about that as I'm, in America right now, and how, different the culture is between America and Bali, for example. In Bali, you can have a full-time staff that cleans and cooks and does all of the domestic things for you for a very affordable price. For a ridiculously good pricing. And imagine the amount of hours in the US or in Europe even that you spend doing those domestic things, like, right? So it's like cleaning, cooking, going shopping, or any of those things, which most people just accept are part of like your daily life. But like if you just removed all of that, you would have like 5 hours more each day. Now imagine if you just took those 5 hours and put them into yourself, right? Just into your relaxing. Just relax. Just lay there, don't do anything, and allow your body to rejuvenate. That's one of the, I think, keys to it. But then they combine that with all the treatments and stuff and the science behind it, the doctors and it's what I love is I'm a spa person. So like, it's nice to think that you're going to a medical treatment, but it's a massage. It's like you're getting these amazing massages. One of my favorite treatments is the it's called the Shirodara. So they just take this like warm medicated oil and they just drip it over your forehead on your third eye for like an hour, and it's so amazing. It just like brings you into such a clear mind, and it just brings so much just clarity to your mind. And I think that those treatments are very specifically designed for these types of things, because it's like so often people like, how do I get my mind clear? They try to meditate and it's hard for them maybe, or whatever, but then they have these specific treatments that will bring you to that as well. So anyway, thank you so much for sharing, Flora. I love to hear your story about that. It's so cool. And I really encourage everybody. So we have 2 treatment centers that we work with that it's funny because I read actually somebody's review online. I had found it on, I don't know, Googled about Ayurveda centers, and there was one review I remember reading, and the woman was saying she picked this Ayurveda center from Google and she went there, and she was very disappointed. She didn't have a good experience. She felt weak at the end. and she felt, what I would say is depleted, which is not what you should feel. Like I've done it 5 years in a row. Like I can vouch for it to say that if you go to the right place, it's going to completely rejuvenate you and you're going to leave there feeling completely reborn and amazing. But if you go to the wrong place, I found out, which I have never been to the wrong place necessarily, but I've only been to the good ones barely. But if you go to the wrong one, you could actually leave not feeling great. So anyway, I just wanted to emphasize the importance of choosing the right one. And I think that that's why I've also kind of like, if anybody's interested in doing that, I have 2 that I recommend, and we have a nice partnership with them. The one in Bali, it's called One World Ayurveda, and then the one in India, which is called Shri Shri Tattva. And I'm super excited because we're also forming a whole partnership with Shri Shri Tattva, and they're going to be our partner that we're going to be launching the retreat center franchise in the US, because they have this amazing, thing, but they only do it like in India or like in North Carolina. They only have 2 locations. So I was like, it'd be amazing if you could have this in every city. And then, so they love the idea. So I've been working with them on this idea of like expanding and getting this into many more locations. And then to open it up for people in our community and in their community and anybody that's aligned with this energy to own their own healing center if they want to. And then you could live and work there. And it's just like, I think a solution to a lot of people's dreams, because that's something that I always dreamed about my whole career too. I've been teaching yoga for 18 years and I worked at every retreat center on the property, in the planet. And I always wanted to have my own retreat center, but I didn't know how to go about creating my own. And so that's why I'm excited to partner with Shri Shri Tattva, because they've already done this in several locations. They actually have the #1 retreat center in the US. It's actually, we're going to be doing a leadership training there, retreat in North Carolina in the end of July. So anybody who wants to be a part of, it's like actually only 5 days or 4 days, but it's like a leadership retreat in North Carolina in the mountains. It's so beautiful. And it's at literally the #1 retreat center in America. So if anybody feels like going to that, we also have that as an option. You can find out more. You can email us at support@flowstate.yoga and I can send you the information. But basically, we have a couple of different retreats coming up in the next couple of months that anybody who wants to either go into the healing side with the Ayurveda retreats or in the leadership, which is also going to have retreats in North Carolina. Let's see. Joe Peel says, people who need it the most are not even close to ready. That's a good point. Do you want to say something about that, Joe? I actually agree with you. And it's a funny thing. Do you want to say something about it?
Yeah, sure. This has just been like burning at the tip of my tongue when you were like, oh, you have to pick the right one. And I was like, I don't doubt that there's differences between like quality, but I think like when I think of some of the nurses that I know, like the most burned out, stressed out people who are like, they've been on the hamster wheel for 40 years. They can't just go to an Ayurveda retreat. They're going to freak out. Like they're not going to be able to relax. They're going to feel that medicated oil dripping on their head and they're going to fucking rip their clothes off and run out the door screaming because they can't understand it. And like,
well, that's why I think it is good, like for people to get introduced to this stuff, like through teachers like you, for example, where, you can introduce somebody to like yoga and like the beautiful little things. And one thing that I notice is that people who, as they start to get little doses, I'll call it like little doses of self-care, where they're like, oh yeah, it does feel good to stretch, or, it feels good to just breathe, like these simple things that is the basis of yoga and Ayurveda kind of like are I would call them the gateway drug, which means like, it's like once they get in on that side and like, yeah, that felt good. And, they may or may not make time for it on the regular, but they've done it a couple times, hopefully. And then they say, oh, that felt good. And then they start to trust that these things can feel good. And then it's in the feeling good that they're going to be open or receptive to these, what could be like unusual kinds of treatments, right? But even also like just the massage, like, so if you think about it, most people, even if they're like you're saying 40 years as a nurse and they're whatever the situation is, but they're, you know, they haven't chosen, let's say, to be committed to their self-care so much, but that at some point maybe they've had a massage, right? And then they could kind of imagine that, you know, if a massage feels good, it'd be nice to have one every day for a week, you know? So it's kind of like gradually easing them into
Yeah.
the ability to receive on that level.
I would say like 70% of them are the kind who don't want to be touched. Actually, we're having like an epidemic of
Oh, really?
nurses. Yeah, you would think they're these loving people because they do touch you, you know, in most intimate places. But I'm realizing now, especially the more I learn about spirituality and stuff on my own, how closed they are to people touching them.
Wow.
And so there is like this whole reverse in roles, like almost like they're protecting them. Their shell is stronger than ever because they are constantly giving and caring to others. And a lot of them don't like massages. We have a wellness center that just our manager is trying to help with burnout. We've had, you know, COVID has been really rough, and she brought in a massage therapist once a week that you could get, I think it was 20 minutes. And I mean, even a free 20-minute massage where you're getting paid at work and the manager is there to say, hey, I'll watch your patient, go get your massage. 50% of them don't want it.
What do they say? They
No,
don't want.
I don't like being touched.
Oh, they say that?
They say that.
Oh, that's sad.
It is. I didn't even know this until the last like few months has become aware to me. I had no idea because I'm such a touchy feely, lovey huggy, but that I'm not a typical nurse. I guess.
Sure. Well, you know what? That's a good point though. Let's speak to that, because I think that the key for life, right, is exactly what you just said about this 50%. And one thing that I noticed as a professional in this for 18 years is that there's always going to be a percentage of people that are not your clients, right? And if you say like your clients, meaning like they don't like to be touched, they don't even want to try anything new, they want to suffer. Like, let's just say it as it,
They're just comfortable in it, I guess.
they're comfortable to suffer and they don't really want to stop suffering. Like, they're not ready to stop suffering. But like, let's talk about the other 50%, or even if there's 30% that are ready. That's what I've always, my whole career, I always focused on the ones that are ready. And the way that I did that in the best way for myself was to put it out there, and who came to me, who was interested, I can serve them because they're interested. But if somebody's like not even coming to you, not interested, you could mention it here and there, but you can tell by their response if they're going to be receptive. So for example, I remember being at an event, and you know, many times where someone might say like, oh, what do you do? This was like, for example, when I started teaching yoga, and I say like, oh, I teach yoga. And then they'd be like, oh, I can't do yoga, I'm not flexible, or something like that. So they give you this reason why they can't do it. And it's always something that isn't a good reason, because if you're not flexible, that means you should do it, because then you'll get flexible. Like, it's not a rational if then statement. But anyway, they basically have determined that it's not for them based on their situation. And so those people, what I just decided early on was that those people, you just don't focus on them. Like, they're not your ideal client. They're not going to come to your retreat. They're not going to do any yoga with you. It's fine. There's always going to be those people. And then there's like a bunch of others that are maybe more resonant. They like to be touched. They need healing. They're ready for healing. They're like begging for healing. They're like, please, what do you got? That is the ideal client. And it's super important for the practitioner, whether you're a teacher, a healer, a coach, or you're running a business with wellness, that you're very discerning, because this is also part of like making sure that your cup is full, that you're discerning on who you are spending time on, right? So if somebody's like, oh, I don't like to be touched, I don't want to do yoga, I'm not flexible, and they just give you all the reasons why they're not your good ideal client, then you say, thank you, because I'm not going to put any energy into that. because that's going to be a waste of my time. I want to be of service, and I want to be able to help the people that are ready and that are receptive. And in order to do that, you have to completely not waste your time on the people that aren't. And then it's the same thing like in dating, right? Like, let's say you were dating, you're trying to date men, and like some guys like, I'm just not ready for a relationship. Like, would you keep trying to date him? No, you'd be like, okay, well, clearly, thank you for letting me know, because you're not a match. So it's like that in life. Like, a client is also a relationship that you're cultivating. You always want them to be open and receptive and ready. And I think that there's always going to be, like, let's say 30% of people that are completely not open or receptive. There's going to be 30% that are kind of neutral. They're not open or receptive, but they're not open and receptive. And then there's maybe 30% of people that are like, this is exactly what I needed. Like, you're the godsend. Please give me what you got. So I always say, focus on that 30%, like, ready. That's where you're going to see your greatest success. But thank you for sharing that. That's interesting.
But those are the people that need it the most, right? So I like your idea, and thank you for giving me that tidbit of, like, you almost need a microdose, like, to get them, like, hooked on it, like, okay, get them a little taste. Because these are the people that need it the most. I mean, there was, and I don't have numbers, I'm not a numbers girl, but there was an ungodly number of doctors that killed themselves after COVID, and, like, healthcare professionals of all types, not just nurses, were really hit hard. And then after, it's just keeps getting worse. It's not like we're getting the thank you that we deserve after COVID. Yeah, everybody else was sitting home scared, and we were going into work, and now we're, like, getting the whip cracked on us, like, hey, work harder. Actually, we lost all these nurses because people quit, and now we're just gonna, and I don't even know what the hell, if people were just sitting home, if COVID made them get worse infections or whatever, but now there's, like, double the amount of patients that need to come to the hospital.
Yeah.
So they need it more than ever, and they're the most closed. So I'm really interested in trying to find a way to introduce them so that they can start the healing internally. Because it's like, you can't, the path that they're on is really destructive, and it's kind of what I would say is the heart of the problem in all of healthcare, is that people aren't able to take care of themselves, so then they're coming from an empty cup. And that's why you have all these non-caring doctors, who are thinking maybe the same thing that you are, like, okay, here you are, fat, overweight, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, your knee's gone bad, like, what am I supposed to do with you? Like, I can't help you, like, that's not my people. And so we can't do that in healthcare. We can't just be like, those aren't my people. Those are the people that need us the most, and we need to find a way to reach them. We're getting to epidemic levels with these people who've been sitting home for years now, for 3 years, and who are still afraid to leave their house. And not just health, I mean, I'm talking non-healthcare people, right? So I switched to, like, the opposite.
No, I agree with you. One thing I'll say, I'm not saying don't help those people. What I'm saying is, if you're a practitioner, if you're trying to build a career, like, you want to try to focus on, in the beginning especially, focus on the people that are receptive to your offering, whatever it is, in the beginning. Because if you try to focus on the ones that are not receptive, you burn out trying to get them interested or trying to get them into it. And so if you want to create a sustainable career, or whatever it is that you're going to do, like that, you want to start focusing on the ones that are receptive. And then what I think with the people that are not receptive, what can be good is you got to get to them through another avenue. So like what you're saying, okay, yeah, they do need it the most, right? And there's tons of people that are suffering. So that's why I'm so passionate about this, because it's like, I can't feel good knowing that I have some solutions that can help people to stop suffering, and that they don't know about that. And so it's always like an art of how do you get people enrolled. They call it the art of enrollment, right? How do you get
Okay.
enrolled into a new thing when they're not feeling receptive yet? So I feel like the key to it, like you said, I like the word microdosing, like giving something. Like, so that's, I think, what the hospital was aiming to do with the massage chair or whatever, which is like, for some people, let's say 50% of them, they did benefit from that. And that was perhaps a good microdosing option. But like different ways, like maybe you could offer a 10-minute breathing practice with some stretching in the hospital, whatever. Like if you wanted to make that your crusade, we'll call it the crusade, because crusade is usually where you are on a mission to solve this one thing in the world, and even if it's not going to be easy because they're not even receptive yet, but you could find the ways where you work with the hospital, and then maybe they could implement a program that's become like mandatory as part of their job to show up to, let's say, this class where it's breathing and whatnot, and that they like if they were required, they would show up. That's the way to get some people like that to participate in the microdose. And then if they're like, oh yeah, you know what, I'm getting paid and I'm required to go stretch and breathe for 20 minutes, then they might go, yeah, I could see this benefiting me in a bigger way if I did more things. So it's like, if you wanted to make it your crusade to help those people that are not yet receptive, you could. And I've known many people who did that. And then you could create creative ways, like one example that I just gave, of working with the hospital to make things mandatory that would require those people to show up. And once they did it, and let's say you did it for 30 days, like that's what I was talking about in the beginning of this, where you do something for a period of time on the daily, so that they getting this as a habit, and then all of a sudden they see the benefits in a bigger way. Like if they just do a 10-minute breathing thing one time, they're not going to be like, yeah, that's life-changing. I mean, they might, depending on the breathing practice, but overall, if they do it every day, they're going to start to see a significant improvement in their well-being and their connectivity to their self and their presence, and their mental state and their emotional well-being. And you start to see the compounding effect when you do it, even if it's a little bit, but regularly versus just one-off, like one time. So that could be something you could really focus on. And I think someone like you, Joe, who has like been working in the hospital for like 25 years, you're a perfect person to do that, because that environment inside and out. You can relate to them. That's something I think that's super important for people like that. They are not usually going to be receptive to somebody that's like an outsider that can't relate to them. But if you can tell them, yeah, I've been doing this for 25 years too, and like you can sort of connect on that level, then they might be receptive to try 10 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes with you in their environment in the hospital, if it's required and if they're being paid because it's on the clock. And then that's how you're going to get those people who are the ones that need it most, but the ones that are the least receptive to try it and then to get hooked. Usually people that I ever met, if you introduce it in the right way, they do get hooked. What do they get hooked to? It's not like you want to get someone addicted to your yoga, but like you do want them to get addicted to feeling good and to doing things that are healthy for themselves. And that's what we have, this huge tool bag of like wonderful things that can help people, whether it's yoga, meditation, breath work, improving the diet, some cleansing practices, like we talk about a lot, like with colon hydrotherapy. I mean, these things are life-changing, each one of them. And when you start to trickle them in one by one into somebody's lifestyle, that's when they see significant, dramatic improvements in their health and their well-being. Anybody who's ever had a colonic can vouch for how good it is for you. Like you feel so much better afterwards, and you realize, I need to do this more often. I'm carrying a lot of stuff in there that I didn't even realize, the kind of thing. And so just like starting to like integrate these things into people's lives little by little that's how you see that transformation over time. It's not always like what I was describing earlier, where the caterpillar goes in and then becomes a butterfly. It's not like 2-week situation. Some people it's going to be 10 years, or like maybe whatever. I don't know, depending on their level of resistance to healing. But if you introduce it in these slow dosing ways in environments that are kind of mandatory, that's where you're going to see the big shift. That's something that I've been really working on with the children of the future. My vision for that is the same, because the teachers are the same as the nurses. They're overgivers. They don't know how to take care of themselves, and they're kind of all burned out, and they don't know how to solve that, but they're not all really open or receptive to doing things that are good for them. So my vision for children of the future is to get these practices mandatory in the schools, to make, so I've been working with the like kind of the level of the schools administrations, and like also I like to see it coming from the national government, and to see like that level of support from the larger kind of like institutions, like whether it's the school district or the government of the state or the county or the national, whatever it is, but to see this becoming mandatory from above is the way you're going to get this to improve the health and well-being of people that are not open to it yet. Because if it's required, they're going to try
it. Or even just recommended and covered by insurance, like chiropractic and acupuncture. Look how many more people go now that insurance will pay.
Right, exactly. And it is actually, I saw there was some insurances that do cover like yoga therapy and things like that. So there are some of them that already do. So it's really like, it's happening slowly. But that's what I was saying. Like, you choose what your crusade is. You want to try to solve the problem of the healthcare workers and get in on that level with the insurance companies, with the hospitals at the higher levels. That's the way that you effectively create massive change. And it's also a more strategic business move, because if you try to go one-on-one, it takes longer, right? But if you went in, like, got the whole hospital as your client, that's a good client, right? Now you have hundreds or thousands of clients because the hospital has them all. So I always suggest, if you're looking at business decisions, like, I'm a business strategist. I love helping people to find the way of getting their more efficiency, right? So I've been working with a couple of companies right now to kind of make that happen. And I realized, like, in everybody, like, so if you're a yoga teacher, if you're a health coach, you can always approach your business in a more efficient way that's going to bring you a larger ROI and help your clients better. So for example, let's say Joe decided to make this her crusade where she's going to solve the healthcare workers burnout. I would go directly to the high level of the hospital, like whoever's at the top, someone that's either in HR or a C-suite executive, someone maybe the person that's in charge of the employees, and basically do the deal with them. So if you went there and you proposed, hey, I'd love to provide this service. I'm trained, I'm certified, I'm a professional, I've been doing this for years, and this is the benefits that this will bring to the employment. This will not only bring a benefit to the employees, to the healthcare workers, but it will improve the overall bottom line of the hospital, because you're going to have more efficiency, you're going to have healthier, happier employees, and that's going to improve their bottom line significantly, because they'll have less people off on sick leave, and less people burning out, less people having all these mental health issues. So you can sell it to them really well if you present it properly, and you present this to the hospital, like the head of the hospital, and you tell them, this is my solution, this is what it will cost, and then you get them to pay you, and you create a whole program with solutions for all the healthcare workers in your hospital. That's what I would do, because then they have so much money.
A big need, and it's not really a lot of money that we're talking about for each person, even if they were to do a week or so, which I don't think that nurses would be able to start with. you'd have to start with like a weekend. So it would have to be super condensed.
Yeah.
Most of them can't even get a weekend is the sad part about the whole thing.
Well,
And that is
good.
why they're burning out, is there's just way too much like time expectation out of your life when you look at the bigger picture. And I've been very blessed. Well, I shouldn't even say blessed. I made the choice to take my retirement early, I should say, and take off time during my youth in my 20s and 30s where I didn't work. And so I got a chance to feel what it was like to not work. Like you were saying, I totally agree with the time frames that you put. For the first month, you're super like, you're still thinking about all the stuff that you were working on. It takes a whole month for me to completely like relax into that receptive flow state mentality. And then, so I get about a month of wonderful travel time or whatever. And then for me anyway, by the third month, I'm already stressing out about money and thinking about how I have to go back to work. So
Well, yeah,
that's
taking
my
3
little
months
cycle.
off. Well, that's a funny thing. I mean, how many people ever got the chance to take 3 months off? So it's true. You did have your early retirement in your 20s and 30s. But, you know, and some people did it the other way around, but like they're also stressing out because people that are 60 now that are retiring and they're saying that Social Security is going away and stuff. So like our whole economy is in a weird place. So I think that you did the right decision retiring early and then coming to work later. But now that you have you can offer these wellness practices with yoga and breathwork and different meditation and different types of healing modalities for people with their back pain and all the things that people deal with. It's a wonderful thing coming in from your experience of having that amount of leisurely time, because you can see these people haven't had any leisurely time for 40 years. So they're the opposite. And so just to introduce them to take a day off, take a day at the spa, do a weekend immersion of wellness, you know, that's the easing them in that I think will be really smart. And like I said, if I were you, I would propose it at the high level in the HR, somebody that's very much accountable to the wellness of the whole company. And that's the person that you're going to, they'll, you know, hopefully that they should have a budget for this. And especially if you propose it in a way that shows them this is going to increase their bottom line. That's what they always want to know. If you go to a corporation, you're going to show them how you're going to increase their bottom line by offering your service. They love it because it's a net win for them. They're not thinking this is a cost now. They're thinking this is a benefit and this is going to improve everything. So if you can present it properly, you're going to get that client. And if you did it at the one that you currently work at, that's even better because you're like, I work here already, you know. And I think that that's a good direction to go. When I was starting out as a wellness professional, I would do that too. I went into hospitals. I worked with the Coral Springs Medical Center. I worked with, actually, I did a whole thing. You could do this. This is something that I'll give you guys as an idea. I did this idea that I worked with the Coral Springs Medical Center in the community that I was living near. And I proposed to do an 8-week health challenge for the employees. So we had 256 employees, and mostly of them were nurses and doctors and wellness or not wellness, medical professionals. And I did this 8-week wellness immersion. It was like a challenge, and they didn't have to, it was optional, but I would have liked to be required. But you know, where they came in, they actually got to weigh themselves, take all their vitals and everything on day 1. And then they were given like a specific diet to follow, as well as wellness practices, fitness practices, yoga, things like that. And then they were weighed on the last day. So it was like showing them also how it could help them lose weight, because that was like 17 years ago. So that was like the big focus back then was on weight loss, but it's still relevant. You know, if people are supremely overweight, that's a big indicator for a lot of other health problems. So you could focus on weight loss. You could also include things like cholesterol or blood pressure, whatever those other indicators that you might want to include to show how this program improve their health over this period of time. That was something that I did, and it was really, really I felt empowered about it because and this was even 17 years ago, and they were receptive to it. So I think they'll all be receptive to these kinds of things. And if anybody in our community feels called to serve on that level or in that way, I highly encourage it. And have courage to just have confidence, go in there, talk to them, tell them what you have to offer, be professional, put together a presentation, a proposal of what you'd like to offer. And then you'll see that a number of them are actually quite receptive if you present it in the right way. And then you can be paid for that. So that's like a client, but instead of a one-on-one with a person, your client is the hospital. And so you have a corporate, we call it corporate client. Then you have a corporate client, you can get paid, either per person or as like a one-time fee or an ongoing fee. So you decide how you want to structure that. But anyway, this is kind of like the types of things that I do when I help people in the business coaching that I offer. But these are some ideas that I thought I would put out, especially because JoPL was giving this this detailed description of what's happening in the hospital. And I feel that too, like as everybody realizes, it's a hospital, it's the schools, everybody's going through something challenging. Even the health professionals, the wellness professionals are also going through it. This is a time on earth where it's a deep transformation of all the people. And so if you're going through it, you're not alone because everybody is. But if you have solutions, you can also help a lot of people because a lot of people are suffering. A lot of people need this medicine. And we have the medicine that it's something that it's science-backed. Research has shown, Harvard, Yale, Stanford, every research on the planet has shown the benefits of yoga and meditation and breath work and all of this for healing depression, anxiety, and all of these illnesses and mental, emotional kind of disturbances that people are experiencing, especially after COVID. So does anybody have any questions about any of that? I know we just talked about a lot of stuff. I do see some comments in the chat too. Lori was talking about, I know these people, COVID was so bad on so many people. I still have friends that have locked themselves away. That's an interesting comment because it's true. Like some people, they're going through so much, they just want to hide from the world. They're kind of like, they don't know where to turn to be healed. They don't know what to do. And they're afraid to try new things. So there's like a lot of people going through a lot of stuff. That's why I was suggesting either go to the corporate and get it to become a program that's mandatory within the workplace, or like offered as an option, but like highly encouraged, or work with people that are open and receptive, because you don't want to burn yourself out as a wellness professional. You have to really be strategic, work smarter. Let's see. Does anybody have any other questions or comments that you wanted to mention? I want to do a quick little meditation with us before we're done for the day. And also just mention, we're going to be on here. We're back onto our Sunday schedule. So we're going to be doing this every week with the YTT group. And also we're starting a new group in May. And what I'm working on is getting my partners who are from the Art of Living, the Sky School program, and the Choose Love, and some of our other partners to teach some of the workshops. So you'll be able to get some wisdom and practices and different things from different people as well. Let's see. Does anybody have anything you wanted to share or any comments or questions? No. Okay, good. Okay, so we're going to do a little meditation together. And I wanted to mention too, I always do all these things. So I'll just say, like, for example, this is rose water, but it's actually mixed with Damiana. So Damiana rose water. It's just nice. So if you can get any like misting flower spray, it's very rejuvenating. You can carry this around, like even if you're at work. It's funny because I remember I said this to one of my ex-boyfriend one time, like if you're always walking around spraying yourself with rose water, then you make your whole life like you're just always stopping to smell the roses, right? So these are little tiny hacks of how to bring just good energy into your day. But anyway, so we're going to do this meditation, and it was the full moon the other day. So I want to emphasize, as we're moving into the springtime and we're planting the seeds now for everything that we want to create for this next season, this next cycle of life, as we go into spring and then moving into summer. And, this is a time where you can be really, really powerful and potent with your intention. So as you're like, okay, what do I want to create with my life? Like, who do I want to be around? Who do I want to create with? Like, what kind of offering do I want to offer? In what capacity do I want to show up? And how is that different than who I was before, right? So sort of like always in this self-inquiry, I think it's such a powerful process of evolution for us to be in. And so when you go into a meditation or a breath, you're really going in to amplify that intention. So if you're like, yeah, this next chapter of my life, I want to get some more clients, or I want to increase my joy of my daily life. I want to do things that are daily, that are healthy and filling my cup, or I want to, create a stability in my finances, whatever it is that's important to you now. That's what you want to hold as the deeper intention. And then when you go into your meditation, what you're doing is you're amplifying that intention with the breath, or with your mantra, or with your whatever practice that you're doing, right? So it's like literally like putting a little bit of gas on the fire. So your intention is the fire, and the gas is like the practices that we do that gives it more energy, energizes it so that it can manifest easier. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so let's do it. So I'm a big believer in the meditation with mantras. And they actually call this transcendental meditation. It's meditation with a mantra. And if anybody's ever seen these beads, which is called a mala, so I have all these malas. I have one here, I have one here, and I have one here. Basically, if you have a mala, this is a nice thing. I'll teach you how to do the meditation with the mala. I love meditation with the mala because it also is very streamlined, right? So what it does is each mala has 108 beads. So you have 108 beads, and this little one at the end, that one is the 109. So there's 108, and the last one is the 109. So I'll explain why it has 108 really quick. So in the Vedic culture, 108 is 108. So the 1 stands for the beginning, and the 0 is the everythingness. It's kind of like 0 point means like everything and nothing at once. It's like existence. And then the 8 stands for eternity. So it's the beginning, existence, absolute, and then infinity. That's what 108 stands for. And then 109, that one actually usually is kind of like interpreted to mean the one that now you take it outside of your meditation and you go serve the world with the energy that you're cultivating. So the 109 is your seva. We call this in yoga, we call this seva. It's like where you serve the world. You take what you learn, you take what you practice, and you share it. Now, the nice thing about transcendental meditation is it's been researched heavily in the science through Harvard, Stanford, Yale, all these like big university research. So it's simple. The reason that it works is because you focus your awareness and your mind on a single thing. There doesn't have to be any specific mantra. Some people will try to sell you a mantra. I'm not going to sell you a mantra. I want you to choose the one that you like. I'll tell you the one that I like lately, and I like different ones. But when I got certified to teach yoga, I was given the mantra, but I also kind of picked it for myself. It's called Om Shri Mahalakshmiye Namaha. And I'm going to type it here. Om Shri Maha Lakshmi SHMI. Now that's actually a very kind of long one, not very long, but it's longer than it could be. So this is one mantra, Om Shri Maha Lakshmi Namaha. What it means is the invocation of the goddess of prosperity to bring prosperity into your life. So this is a good one. If you guys like to take notes, you can have that one. But you could do any mantra. You could just do a simple one. It could just be Om. It could be an English mantra, like it could be let go. It could be it could be the kind of Om. It could just be something simple like love. Just repeating one word over and over is the key, because you're focusing your mind and your awareness on this one repetitious word, this thought. And this thought carries a frequency, it carries an energy, it carries intention. So with the one Om Shri Mahalakshmiye Namaha, this is actually carrying the intention of invoking abundance and prosperity into your life. But if you want to do a different one, you could be like love, or, you know, whatever it is you want to invoke into your life. We could do different ones, but we'll just do the one that I mentioned just to keep it simple. So how you start, you want to start, you put all the beads in one hand like this. Then you have your right hand. Usually I do it right-handed because I'm right-handed. So I take my index and the thumb and you just put it on the, it's funny because this mala does not have a proper thing. It should have a tassel. But anyway, I got this in India. You put your index and your thumb on the first bead. And when you say the mantra Om Shri Mahalakshmiye Namaha, and then you spin the bead and you go to the next bead. So you just do this. So basically, as you sit there, you want to sit with the spine nice and straight. I'll sit up. Sit with your spine nice and straight. And you say it out loud or in your mind. You don't have to say it out loud. You can just say it in your mind. And you want to focus your awareness on getting calm, centered, focused in your mind. And then you can say it out loud or in your head, but I'll just do it out loud so you can hear it. So it goes like this. Om Shri Mahalakshmiye Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmiye Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmiye Namaha. And I usually hold that 109 bead just to keep it stable. Om Shri Mahalakshmiye Namaha. 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 Om Shri Mahalakshmi 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 Namaha. And take a deep breath. So this was 108 rounds. Now, you might think, wow, but how do you feel at the end? That's the key. I feel very euphoric when I do that especially because you say it out loud, you're breathing in this kind of cadence with yourself, but also the repetition is really nice. It's like a vacation for your mind. So you don't really have any room for thoughts, which is so nice. All you have room for is this one thought, which is this mantra. And so it's like a cleansing of the mind. And it's like, you brush your teeth, you wash your body, you want to cleanse your mind. And there's different ways of doing it. Breath work, mantra, meditation, all of these things really do help. And it's funny because also the thoughts that were coming to me that were like kind of in the periphery, they're not dominant thoughts because you don't have any room for a dominant thought with that. But the periphery was the idea that I wanted to share with you guys what I'm creating with this company. And I'm really excited. Actually, I'll show you. I have all their products here because it's that brand from India. So it's called Shri Shri Tattva. And Shri Shri Tattva is owned by Shri Shri Ravi Shankar, who's the creator of The Art of Living. And anyway, so I'm really super excited because I'm going to be helping them launch this product line in Whole Foods. And we're going to be doing a lot of things together, including some of these wellness retreats and the retreat franchise. But anyway, this was something that came to me, and I wanted to share the vision with you in terms of how you can get super creative, because right now is a very strange time in the economy. But I think the people that get really creative are going to really thrive right now, because even though the economy is in a weird place, it won't always be in a bad place. So you can think of this as like a really good starting point. Plant the seeds now, because you're going to grow these beautiful gardens of whatever your intentions are. And if it serves the world, you will prosper. So when I went to this company, I loved their products already, because I found out about one product. Actually, I'll tell you what happened. I was really inspired about this one product that I was like, this is the best thing. Why doesn't everybody know about it? It's called Nox 19, and it's an Ayurvedic product that they have scientifically researched at Stanford to show that this specific product kills the COVID-19 virus. Amazing. It's like all natural. And I was like, wow, like, why doesn't everybody know about that? Of course, we all know why. But the point is, I want to make this available to everybody. So I'm working with getting them launched into Whole Foods. and we're going to do a big launch in the National Whole Foods. It's a project I've been working on for several months. But anyway, this is something that came to me when I was thinking about, when I saw this product, for example, and when I was using their hair oil, like, for example, I love their hair oil too. They have this amazing hair oil that helps your hair grow and things like that. And I was just like, wow, this is a great product. And then I was like, how can I help get this to more people? How can I help make more people have access to well-being, to health and wellness in these ways that are available? And I started creating, and I created a whole business plan, like a strategic scaling strategy for the company, because they're actually pretty big in India, but they're not that big in the US yet. And I created this whole scaling strategy, and I presented it to the CEO. I got introduced to the CEO, and he loved the strategy. He loved it so much that he's like, this is not just an idea. This is like a whole job. Like, would you want to work for us as our CMO, which is Chief Marketing Officer? And I was thinking about that. And I worked out a deal where I'm going to be working for them as their CMO, which is a really high level position. I mean, the CMO position in a company, in a good company, this is like a $50 million company already, but I'm going to scale them to $1 billion. I already have the plan, and I have the best strategy. So basically though, I presented the idea. So I created my own job. Like, it's a cool job because I get to do what I want. I get to do what I love. I get to do what I'm good at. And I get to do it with a company that I already love and excited about. And they're going to give me a salary, which is exciting because I haven't had a salary in 20 years, which is like somewhere between 300 or more thousand a year, because that's a CEO or CMO average salary. So that's going to be exciting. I haven't started yet, but anyway, that's happening soon. But the other thing is that I'm working on a deal with them where we do a profit sharing. So all the money that I help them to make, because I'm going to help them scale to $1 billion is my plan, that I'm going to help them scale to $1 billion, and they're going to contribute percentage of that. I'm proposing 50%. So hopefully it goes through in my favor. 50% of that would be contributed to my foundation, Bright Future Foundation. What we're going to be doing with this money is providing scholarships and grant funding for people in the schools, teachers, parents, and children, and maybe also in the medical profession. We could work with those people as well, providing scholarships and grants to be able to have access to these healing retreats and also the online trainings that we offer. So it's kind of like a scholarship fund. So we call this an endowment fund. It will also be funding the development of these healing and wellness retreat centers and also the documentary films that I want to do. So anyway, that's my big vision that's been coming together over a few months. Not fully executed yet, but I'm putting it out there because it's a full moon and we're in the divine energy of that this is, because we already talked, we had several meetings and they were like, yeah, we definitely want to do it. So it's just like now the next step this week, signing the deal. But I wanted to give you guys this kind of concept because I was really feeling like, how cool is it? You can create whatever you want in life. Like, you could literally create your own job. You could create your own opportunity. Like I was sharing with JoPL, like she could present this to the hospital and they could be her client or her partner, and like, that's what I did with this. Instead of like going and finding a job, like if I wanted to get a job, like apply for a job, like I wouldn't do that. Instead, I created my dream idea. It's not just a job because I get to do what I want, but it's like aligned in so many ways to be able to support my mission and my purpose and my seva, and at the same time get to do what I love to do with a company that's totally aligned with everything that I'm all about. So anyway, wanted to give you guys this story so you can get inspired. If there's something that you are thinking of doing in a big way, like, don't hold back. If you can make the world a better place, if you can help a company grow, if you can help your workplace have better health and well-being, go for it. Go submit the proposal, get the meeting, take the initiative. You don't need to wait, and you don't hold yourself back at all, because there's no risk in trying. The only thing, worst case scenario, they don't go for it. But if you set yourself up properly, like with a good proposal, with a clear vision of your plan and what you want to do and how that's going to add value to them, and how you can even quantify that value in dollars or however, they're going to love it, because everybody's looking for a little bit of support. And so if you can go to people, companies, whatever you're looking to partner with strategies like that, you can really skyrocket your success even in this downtime of the economy. And that's what I wanted to emphasize. Like, you don't need to be like, oh, it's a shitty economy, so I'm just going to be struggling. No, you know what? Some of the best companies were born in the worst time of the economy. In 2008, Uber and Airbnb both launched in 2008, and that was the last time we had a big market crash. So if you can think back to like 2008, and then you think like, okay, that was really a bad time in the economy, and then look where it went from there. It went really good after that, and then it was like really good for about 10 12 years. Well, COVID hit, and then all of a sudden it's down again. So that's kind of how the economy does. It does these like cycles. So if you're like in the downtime, it won't stay down forever. You have to remember that there's always an up. It's waves. They don't ever just flatline. Otherwise, the whole world is just over. Instead, it's always going to go back up. So if you're in the bottom, that's a good place to be, because it's a very strong place to build a foundation, and people are looking for your help. They're looking for your support. They actually need you at this time more than ever. So if you can present yourself in a way that's going to be beneficial, you can show the value that you offer, you can show how you're adding to their bottom line or to their health and happiness in a significant, measurable way, and you have a strategy on how to get there, you will succeed no matter what. So I wanted to emphasize this. Anybody have any questions? Flor says, so great and inspiring. Thank you. You're welcome, Goddess. I'm so happy to hear that you felt inspired about that. Yeah, it's like, I like to share these things, like, first of all, because you guys are my community. I love you. I feel like we're like a family, but also to give you ideas, to spawn your creativity. As a leader of this community, like, my intention is to help you thrive, not just teach you these beautiful practices, but also how do you get this out there? And because I really do believe in oneness, and I think we're all one. So like, if Joe PL goes and heals all the nurses in her hospital, that's a win for us all. You know what I mean? Like, everybody benefits from that. So if I can help in any way, I'm always up for it, and I just want to emphasize that again. Anybody have any questions before we end for today? We had a beautiful long session of 2 hours almost, and it's a nice Sunday afternoon. Mi amor's over here sleeping away. Come, sleepy lady, you want to say hi? Come here. She's like, I was sleeping. Why are you waking me up, lady? I'm a sleepy puppy.
So good to see you, beautiful sister. Have
You
a
too,
wonderful
my
day.
love. I love your idea, and I really encourage you to go to the HR of your hospital. I almost like want to help you with that if I can, if you want me to. I mean, I just feel like that's I worked with a hospital before, so I could help you get that client easily. I mean, they're actually quite receptive to these things.
I love that. I would totally love that.
I think it's a great direction for you, and like, I always wanted to help people in the hospital because I feel that way because of you. I always I know these people are burned out and stuff. And it's like,
When we go there, I mean, I've been a patient. We go there when we're totally depleted and we need. So you can't go to an empty well looking for water is the thing. So like, we don't realize this is going to help everyone. This is going to help the teachers. This is going to help the mothers. This is going to help everybody.
yeah, exactly. That's what I feel about it. That's why, yeah, I would be happy to help you. I could even help you. I could show you like how to put together the proposal, because I did that. Like, even when I started, I was like 24. I was like so confident. I go to these hospitals. I'm like, look, I'm going to help you all. And they believed it so well. They hired me and I did it. And it was like, but it gave me so much confidence, you're early on. I'm like 24 and I'm like doing all these things. And like, they loved it because they're looking for this positive energy. Like they need help. They don't know what to do. They're just suffering themselves. Probably the lady in HR needs it too, but like she needs to come, like someone needs to have a solution, and they try these little solutions with the massage chair there, but that's okay too. But it's not really a fix. It's just like a Band-Aid. They need to get a real wellness protocol going across the board. And when I worked with that hospital in Coral Springs, they actually had developed a whole wellness center. And they had yoga classes all the time in the wellness center for the employees and also for the community. So they had like mommy and me and everything. I was teaching the mommy and me. I was teaching the parents and the kids and everybody. And it was fun for me. I liked that. But I don't know if your hospital has anything like that or if they're into it. But these are the types of things, especially in California, at least, they're like a little more receptive to these ideas and now more than ever. So I think just if it's presented in the right way, it would definitely, I think they would be into it for sure.
I think so too. And there's a lot of, well, because it's a university hospital, there's a lot of research opportunities. So even if I didn't necessarily get paid initially, like you were saying, you plant the seed, you get the proposal, maybe I would have to do a lot of free legwork the first year, for example, to prove and get my like evidence that suggested it helped.
Yeah.
And then get a grant and get money.
So that's
and that's kind of how the universe, how I think the university system would most be receptive.
That's a
But
great idea.
they have money too. I mean, the wellness program that the manager is doing right now was a grant from the university, and they're paying that massage therapist. And they bought the chair for all the time, and they pay a massage therapist to come once a week. So they do have money. It's just really small, you know. It's
I understand what you're saying. I think that that's a great idea. And also, as long as everything goes through with this thing that I'm doing with this company, that's what our grant endowment fund is going to be available for. Like people like that, like people that have wellness solutions that we want to help support. So we're going to offer grants and scholarships from ours too. So there's definitely, the future is bright, but definitely get the ball rolling. You know, if you could do a research of sorts, it would be so good, because the more you have that, it's just going to continuously support you as a leader in this, you know, as you move towards establishing yourself. And then people will be like, yeah, Joe Peel's like the leader of this, like the expert of this, you know, because you already 25 years. I mean, you can be. It's not like you need to do much to get there. You just have to establish yourself in the right way. So establishing a research is a great way to establish yourself as an expert. And the other thing is writing a book. Those are the two things that establish someone as an expert. If you've done medical research and or written a book, that's kind of like the first step in like getting yourself established as the go-to expert in something. So I think that would be a really interesting option. Like you always wanted to write that book about happiness and like the laughter and whatever, like you had this idea, but I love that. I think like, you know, and actually Stanford, that's where I was inducted into the Happiness Hall of Fame, is at Stanford. Remember, you went there, and they have a whole thing about happiness in Stanford. And it's interesting because they've done a lot of research about forgiveness and happiness and the correlation between these things. And they do research about that, showing like the correlation between forgiveness and happiness. And it's like, what a great thing. I mean, the guy that runs that program is an expert because he's written like 10 books on forgiveness and happiness. And he's done research about it. It's like so cool. And then he started bringing it into the prisons around the world. And he brings the forgiveness program into the prisons. And it's so beautiful. I would love, you know, maybe you could eventually work with them too. Like there's so many, you know, opportunities that it's just like, pick the one that resonates and gets you lit up, you know, but like then become the expert of that, write the book, work with the other experts, collaborate, you know, create the proposal, go to the company, tell them what you're passionate about, tell them how you're going to help them, tell them how you can help everybody, and then paint the picture of how it's going to benefit them, the value that you're going to add. And then I really believe that with that, money will always follow that, you know? So like you said, sometimes in the beginning, you got to plant the seeds for free, but like when those seeds grow, you're going to have a whole garden that feeds you and your whole family. So it's always that way. So often in my career, I gave a lot up front. I always give a lot. And you know what? It always comes back 10 times. Like when I gave all my YouTube videos in the beginning, but then they all went viral and ended up with millions of people knowing about me. Or like when I started the 30-day yoga challenge, it was free. And it was like I was doing all this work for free, but then it ended up creating a whole career around that brought me millions of dollars over the years. And then, you know, like all of that established each little brick that was building the palace of the career, right? And then I wrote this book, and then that was how I got inducted into the Happiness Hall of Fame, or got to speak at Stanford because I wrote a book about happiness, about joy. So, you know, you think about each little thing that you choose as creating like putting a brick in the wall of your masterpiece of your life. So take action. I love you guys.
Beautiful. Love you.
Have a beautiful, blessed day.